सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Can you all hear me clearly? There is no response. So Satish ji, can you increase a little bit? The fourth mantra, repeat after me. Tvam vangmayastvam chinmayah त्वमानन्दमयस्त्वं ब्रह्ममयः त्वं सच्चिदानन्दाद्वितीयोऽसि त्वं प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वं ज्ञानमयो विज्ञानमयोऽसि Yesterday we saw till Tvam Anandamayastvam Brahmamayah Tvam Vangmayah. So the way we meditate on the Lord is that if you are expressing through every syllable that I utter, that very act of consciously speaking, consciously saying, without having to regret for anything spoken, that's a huge tapas. Vangmayam tapaha. This comes in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Vangmayam tapaha. That there is no need for an apology or feeling sorry for what we have said. That kind of alertness. Because, O Lord, you are the one expressing through every syllable that I utter. Tvam Vangmayah. Tvam Anandamayah. You are the very embodiment of Ananda. I who am a devotee of yours, I who constantly meditate on you, I who constantly do the upasana of you, such one, first stage, wherever I am interacting, I should at least not be the source of any confusion, restlessness or irritation. Before we can give ananda, we should stop giving misery to others. That's the greatest first step that we can take. Then dwell deeper into the core of our own being and express that happiness out. But Swamiji, it is not always possible. You know how life is so frustrating. So be like his father. Whose father? Lord Ganesha's father. What did he do? He consumed the entire poison, halahala. And where did he keep it? He kept it right there on the throat. That is why he is called Neelakantha. He did not allow that poison to enter into his heart, nor he allowed that poison to be spitted out. Each one of us will have our own stories, stranger than fiction, to share. Everybody has their own little Bhagavatam running. घर घर की कहानी. In this country, how do you do, or how are you, or what's up? These are the ways of, saying a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is. What's up? And if the other person is really sincere or serious about your question, thank goodness you asked. Sit down. Nobody will end up asking that question anymore. In spite of all these experiences, our expression should be uncontaminated, pure ananda and love towards the world. Why? Because I am your devotee and I represent you in this world. See, whenever we are representatives, ambassadors, you have to be extra cautious as to what we do. So let my every expression be born out of that ananda. Provided we have that peace within, provided we have that ananda within, we can give only that which we are abundantly seated with. Don't answer my question. Pause and think. What is it that we have in abundance today? And that is exactly what we give out to the world in abundance. If the people are frustrated or irritated with our presence, more likely so that it is our contribution than their contribution. Because we are the active ingredient in every interaction. In spite of that, there is somebody irritated or agitated. Our presence of that ananda should be so contaminating in nature that the other person forgets their misery for a moment, goes out with joy on their face. Tvam anandamayastvam brahmamaya. Why is that Lord Anandamaya? So he says, Tvam Satchidananda Advitiyosi. Tvam Advitiyaha Asi. Advitiyaha, one without a second. Agitations are born. Usually the major cause of our agitation is our fear and anxiety. Anxiety is also fear of the future. So the basic thing is we are fearful. And that fear starts from our sense of separation. The moment we sense separation, there is fear. Because of that sense of separation, we tend to compare. Because of that comparison, there is competition. It's not that somebody is going to give you a medal at the end of it, but there is that psychological urge to compete and be better than the rest of them around us. Unhealthy pattern of growth. If at all we have to compare with our own past and beat our own best. But what do? We compare. Even raising children, we use this comparison as a tool to create competition among siblings. Why are you like this? I have provided everything that I have provided for both of you, but look at your other sibling. Look at your brother, look at your sister. They are way better than. And look at you. We create that comparison. I am told no husband ever likes his own wife's cooking. Why? They compare it with their mother's cooking. You know, my mother, when she used to make this, comparison. And we create that unhealthy pattern of competition. And the moment there is competition to show, to prove that I am better than, what happens? All the Shadvikaras come into play. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsara, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha, Abhinivesha. I can go on. There is a list of things. There is a domino effect. One after the other, they start clouding us from within. That is why the Upanishad makes it such a beautiful statement. Dvayat bhayam bhavati, bhayameva mrityuhu. Dvayat bhayam bhavati, bhayameva mrityuhu. See, many people, irrespective of what age group they are in, they end up saying, you know, I'm scared to live alone. It's a very fancy statement. Why? You yourself confess that you are staying alone. If staying alone creates fear, stop looking into the mirror. For creating that fear, there has to be somebody other than you to create that fear. You yourself say you are alone. And even in that loneliness, what is the fear? What if there is somebody else other than me? The moment we understand that I am that pure consciousness and everything in this world is my own extension, will there be fear? I don't compare my right hand with left hand. Though I have a certain favorite hand, I find that one hand is stronger than the other hand. But I never compare, saying that, you know, you left hand, good for nothing. Look at the right hand. You right eye or you left eye. Why don't we compare here? Because in both, I am the one extending. When I can find that oneness among this entire creation of multitude, then there is nothing to fear. That one without a second, Advitiyaha Asi, creates fearlessness. Nothing to lose, nothing to gain. And such a person who does not have any fears, does not have anything to lose or gain, such person, when they express out into the world, there are no hidden agendas. I do certain things for certain people at certain occasions, so that in later period they can do certain things for me at certain period when asked for. That's how it works, right? I scratch yours, you scratch mine. Friend in need is to be avoided. We take those assurances. Why even go to the end of friendship or any other relation? The close relations, We want that assurances. And one of the thing that really brings smile when I hear, do you love me, honey? Born out of sincere insecurity. So such person who is fearless, there are no insecurities. Since they have nothing to lose, nothing to gain, there is no hidden agenda. When they function in any interaction with this world, all that they bring forth onto that environment is that ananda. And what is it that connects them with that unity across this multitude that they see, they interact with? Tvam Satchidananda Dvitiyosi. You are Sat Chit Ananda. You are the very conscious existence throbbing in bliss, gurgling out with bliss. A long time ago when I was in India, come this December, there is this season of Ayyappa in South India. It's like a wildfire. They take that Diksha for a mandala. Mandala means 41 days. During that period, people looking at me, then it was yellow, now orange, looking at me, they would come up to me and say, what kind of Diksha is this? For them, the black one is the Ayyappa Diksha. So wearing this yellow, what kind of Diksha it is? So I used to have fun answering different things. One of my most favorite ones was permanent Diksha. Yours is 41, mine is for lifelong. So right behind our mission office, there was this huge empty ground and there was a small Shiva temple. And there they would have these bhajans, Ayyappa bhajans. And it is like they really keep you awake. Hindi mein kehte hain jagrata. That which keeps you awake at night. One day, and once you get into that environment over a period of time, you get used to that. In fact, you can't sleep if there is no music. One day, sleeping in the mission office, in the ashram, there was one song, and it suddenly brought me to complete awakefulness. And what they are singing caught my attention, and it didn't make sense. So they started with the bhajan, Hey Krishna. Sachinda Unda. That word, that kind of, in Telugu, it means, are you dead or alive? And like, why are they singing this? It doesn't make any sense. Then when I closely listened to it and tried to decipher the code, what they meant to sing was, Hey Krishna, Sachidananda. See, whenever you look at any Ashtottara Shatanamavali, Sahasranamavali of any god or goddess, we would find these three words often repeated. Satchidanandaya Namaha, Chidanandaya Namaha, Chitswarupaya Namaha, Satswarupaya Namaha, Ananda Swarupaya Namaha. These words are often repeated. What do they mean? Sat, existential reality. Chit, conscious reality. Ananda, blissful expression. Once I was trying to write some article, and the question asked brought this beautiful thought. Why is it that the entire humanity is in search for happiness? If our true nature is Satchidananda, we should be in search for Sat, Chit and Ananda. Why is it that we are only in search of Ananda? In major percentage, we already experience the first two. The one which we are not expressing or experiencing is the last one. Couple of questions. Sat. Do you all exist? Obvious question. Don't pause there. I exist. Do I need proof of existence? Back in India, there is a All India committee, All India group. It is called Akhila Bharat Mritak Sangh. It can happen only in India. What it translates to is All India Dead Persons Association. The government has already declared them dead, and they are really fighting for their birthright. I'm really alive, I'm standing in front of you. But they say, I have a document which says you're dead. Whenever we transit from the airports and other things, we need an ID. Government issued ID to say that you are what you claim. But what is the proof that I am me? To exist as myself, I do not require any authority to validate my existence. I exist, and I exist without any validation required. Even for my own sense. As soon as we wake up early in the morning, do we need mirrors or some RFID or some ID card? As soon as I wake up, I have to see, Acha, oh, I am this. No, we don't. Because I know I exist. Even during the sleep, I am assured that tomorrow I will wake up and I will still continue to exist, hence therefore I have freedom to sleep. Imagine if we had no assurance. We would be zombies walking around. Why? पता नहीं आंखें बंद कर लिया तो गया तो. What if I sleep and I don't wake up? Or even if I wake up, I cease to exist. No. I exist, and I exist without a need of validation for my existence. That is an experience already. Now the second question. Do I know that I exist? Okay, thank you. Imagine how weird it would be that your neighbor turns to you. Do I? What would you think of that person? Something doubtful in their Uttar Pradesh. So the first two, Sat and Chit, is already of an experience. I exist and I am aware that I exist. I know that I exist. That knowing aspect is called Chit Swarupa. But what I end up existing as is what causes misery or restlessness in life. Because we tend to exist as something that which I am not. Today we hear a lot about identity crisis, identity theft. But for the rishis, it has been the core subject of analysis. We have always been in identity crisis. Whatever I am doing, Swamiji, I am not happy with what I am. What should I do? Maybe my misery will come to an end if I put end to my life. Atmhatya. But I like the other word. It's a Urdu word. Khud khushi. Why do I like that word? Even that Atmahatya is done in anticipation of happiness. Khud ke khushi ke liye. We live in anticipation of that happiness. We also attempt at finishing this life in anticipation of that happiness only. But we seldom look into our patterns of lifestyle wherein I am trying to become something which I am not. That act of becoming is called bhava. The root word being bhu dhatu. Bhu bhavati. And hence therefore, the so many times, so many different patterns that I try to exist and express as which I am not. Hence therefore it is called, the samsara is called bhavasagara. But if I know how to exist as existence, how to exist as awareness, then all that I can express as is that happiness alone. Joys are temporary. And human mind is amazingly accommodative. We accommodate to any situation. We have tried all through our life that, to find something permanent as happiness. But failing to find that, what do we do then? In our daily planner, we try to plan and accommodate all those things which can give us little joys. And when I pull all together at the end of the day, how was your day? Satisfying. Why? That joy which I am searching, that happiness which I am searching, that permanency in joy that I am searching is not available. Hence therefore I have filled my day with all those little moments that can give me joy. Hence therefore I think I am satisfied. Any one of those equations of becoming gets shaken up, because none of them are permanent. Instability starts. Why does this happen to me? Why does this happen to me always? Why me only? The fault is not of the samsara, the fault is our identity. No, Swamiji, I have done nothing, even I have not harmed even an ant. Consciously maybe. I have never done any harm to anybody. That is what we all claim. But the point of discussion and focus here is, it is because we try to become that which we are not and try to sustain that becoming, we are left restless and miserable. That, if changed with a constant meditation on my own true nature. Sometimes the Western philosophers, Western thinkers, Western speakers, when they talk about Hinduism, which I have come across recently quite a bit, one of the things that we as Hindus are ridiculed are, we are the most selfish people. Why? Our entire spirituality speaks about realization of the self and reaching to that blissful nature for the self, by the self. Nothing to do for community, nothing to do for the country, nothing to do for anything else. But the rishis were very clear. The moment you reach to your core of happiness, the rest of the expressions after that, interactions after that, are not for happiness. They are with happiness. So how would it translate in our day-to-day life? A simple change of standpoint. I am not working for happiness, but I am working with happiness. I have got nothing to lose because I have a constant stream of happiness. Whoever wants it, take it. That is why there is this beautiful bhajan. राम नाम के हीरे मोती लूट सको तो लूट. The singer there says, don't take, grab as much as you want, because I have nothing to lose. This state of happiness is permanent. Tvam Satchidanandat Dvitiyosi. Such Paramatma that is meditated upon constantly, so that I can focus and grow beyond my own internal limitations. Yat bhavam tat bhavati. As you think, so you become. And you think of that Lord as this Satchidananda, what would be in translation our experience? Then he continues to say, Tvam pratyaksham brahmasi. My experience, personal experience, pratyaksham, that you are limitless brahmasi. Brahman, that which is bigger than the biggest, that which cannot be limited by anything. Anything that is made of the five elements, the element itself becomes its limitation. That which illumines all these five elements cannot be bound by, destroyed by any one of the five elements. Cannot be burnt, cannot be suffocated, cannot be drowned, cannot be suffocated, I have already said. Cannot become, non-existent, akasha. Because none of these five elements can touch you. How can you say that? Very simple. The first four elements cannot impact or change the fifth element. Space is always remained pure. The air can be impure. The water can be impure. The earth can have impurities. Environmental engineers, all that they do is start digging up and find out how much of impurity and try to curtail it, contain it. That which is always pure is space. Space cannot be contaminated by any one of those four. That which cognizes, that which is aware of, that which illumines that space is Brahman. Hence, therefore, always pure, always unlimited, not bound by any of these elements. Pratyaksham, that is my personal experience. Tvam pratyaksham brahmasi. And where does this experience reflect? Tvam jnanamayo vijnanamayosi. Tvam jnanamayaha, that is my firm understanding in my intellect. It's a factual understanding of my intellect. See, until it becomes a factual experience, we require faith. And when people say, I don't believe in blind faith, the statement has a flaw in it. You can have faith only as long as you are blind. The moment you have been illumined, the moment you have a personal factual experience, there you don't need faith. Fire burns. Is that a factual understanding or a faithful belief? What is it? Fact? Or else I would have started a practical experience. Until it became a factual experience, we were cautioned by our elders, we were cautioned by our well-wishers, be careful with that fire. Especially the Diwali times. Growing up in India, that also to show off. First is a stage wherein the little, what do you call, the firecracker, you have a long stick and then you have a splinter there and then you light it up and then from distance. And then run miles away and then look. Then you realize that it was that splinter which touched something and rubbed and that fell down, which gave you the feeling that the wick there got ignited. And slowly you go. And then you realize that it really had caught fire, and the moment you go there, put! And then you are, oh, not bad, I can handle this distance. So that big stick now becomes small stick. And then step back toward and then watch it. Then comes the stage. I am not doing Bharatanatyam here. Sitting there casually, holding that agarbatti in the hand and then lighting it and then throwing it. And my parents used to tell, be careful, don't do that. And that was like through the ventilation. I must have been 4 or 5 years old. Instead of throwing that, there is called something called atom bomb kind of a thing with a green. So I threw it, and the distance that I had imagined I could throw was shortened for whatever reasons, and it fell right in front. And as it burst open, I got a little scared, and I was pushed back. My own reaction, nothing to push me, my own reaction, I pushed back. And there were steps, and one of those steps I firmly sat down. And as I was sitting, I did not know. As I was sitting, there was the diya, lamp, and then I sat smack at the. That day I had too many factual experiences. Fire burns. And if you are wearing a, what do you call that stretchable thing, spandex? Kind of, material, it sticks. So when you are playing with fire, be careful, don't wear such material. Lots of factual experiences that day. For a lifetime. Until then, what they told, I believed that fire does burn. But that day, it was not that I believe fire burns, I know fire burns. So the intellectual understanding, the scriptures as they are saying, I have a logical sense of appreciation of it. It reflects in my jnanamaya. I have a clear understanding with clarity. And you are the one who illumines as wisdom in action, Vijnanamayaha, factual experiences in action. Jnana is just an intellectual appreciation or understanding. Vijnana, direct experience of it. I think it was 2 years ago. Whenever I go back to India, I make it a point to drive there, both on 2-wheel and 4-wheel. I just don't want to forget that skill. It's very easy actually, don't follow any rules. After having followed rules here, to go back there and not follow rules, it's scary. And many times I take the, people from here to Yatra, and one place, the Dwadash Jyotirlinga time, we had to cross an intersection. And we walked. There were 2-3 of them, they were looking at the traffic and they were stuck there. I told them, Amma, in India we don't have traffic controllers. You are the traffic controller. So you go in, walk. And you walk. So once I was driving and there was this 4-year-old kid. I was still a brahmachari then. So I said, Brahmachari ji, I will also come. He loved them. Many of these young kids, they love cars. And he sat right in the front seat. And his mother had warned me, you're taking him, don't lose your focus. I did not realize what she meant. It was jnana. Once I started driving, then I had the vijnana of traveling with that kid. What was the vijnana? That kid loves being in a car so much, and he has observed the car ride or car driving so much, that he practically knew the entire mechanics of how to drive a car. Practically knew it. So I was driving through Vijayawada and this kid says, now put second gear. You are releasing the clutch too fast. Hold the clutch on. Now we have picked up, now put into the third gear. No, not the fourth, third. You start with the first, put it on the second, and as you pick up, you can either go on the third or the fourth. No, that is not right. You have to go to the third, then come to the fourth. And whenever the vehicle has to slow down, don't shift the gear, just put it in the neutral. Hold on to the clutch. As the speed required, then you can shift it to third or second or first. Man, he was getting onto my nerves. So after a while, after half day's drive, I said, know what? Drive it yourself, I'll sit. So I'll have my time also. Now it is yours. Even if I put on some pillows and sit, my legs don't reach, my hands don't reach, so I am not the right person. So you drive and I drive you. So what that kid had is called jnana. And for those of us who have driven it, what we have is called vijnana. There are some of us, in spite of driving, we don't get to that stage of vijnana. There are so many of them that I know, they don't drive highways. They'll go into the back alleys, they drive those 30-40 speed limits. Wherever they have to go, they'll take half an hour or 20 minutes extra. Why? They'll never hit a highway. Scary speeds. And that jnana has not transformed into vijnana yet. Many of us in our day-to-day life, we know certain pattern that will take us down. We know it by experience. That is what has been happening again and again and again. But yet, that wisdom does not kick in. When that wisdom kicks in our day-to-day activity and we are alert while we are executing our lifestyle, that is when it is called Vijnanamaya. Taking it subtler, he says, Tvam pratyaksham brahmasi. I realize that you are that unlimited reality, the absolute truth, Brahman. I understand it intellectually and I know it Vijnanamaya, I know it as a factual experience, immediate experience. Tvam jnanamayo vijnanamayosi. And it can have a different stance of understanding. Whenever I have intellectual clarity and understanding, it is your expression. And when that intellectual clarity translates into day-to-day functioning of awareful living, that also is your expression. Tvam jnanamayo vijnanamayosi. Continuing further, in the fifth mantra, Sarvam jagadidam tvatto jayate. Sarvam jagadidam tvattastisthati. Sarvam jagadidam tvayi layameshyati. Sarvam jagadidam tvayi pratyeti. Tvam bhumirapo nalo nilo nabha. Tvam chatvari va akpadani. Sarvam jagadidam tvattaha jayate. Tvattaha, from you. Jayate is born. From that conscious reality, everything expresses forth. And this is one theme which is common in and through every Upanishad, every aspect of scripture that we talk here. This is one concept that is constantly mentioned. That the entire creation is nothing but Paramatma alone. The known creation, the unknown creation, the conscious aspect of creation, the unconscious aspect of creation. Every particle of it is nothing but Paramatma alone. From its essential standpoint, it is Paramatma in different molds of expression. In order to create, you require couple of things coming together. One is called the material cause. You need certain material. Just put the raw material, do you think the world will be created? No. That would be so great, right? if you learn that technology. You don't have to cook, you don't have to work, just put the raw material, automatically it will guide itself. You just think, आज पूरी खाना है, टक 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 टक. Go to office, today I have to code this. Tuck, 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 everything, every code comes out there. Or today I have to operate. Just sankalpa marte rehna. The scalpel, everything. Does anything of that kind happen? The raw material is there, but that raw material requires a certain intelligence to know how to use that raw material to create, to produce. And produce efficiently, produce to that perfection. Do you remember your first chapati or roti? Long time ago. It was like one of the continents, or the spaces between the continents, meaning shapeless. Nirguna Nirakara. It just struck me. And then we intended making roti. It became papad. So stiff. Sometimes burnt toxic waste. See, I love these two words in cooking. Sometimes it is tasty if the food turns to be a little caramelized. But instead of caramelization, it becomes carbonization. But you are so hungry that you end up eating it. Then you come to that expert level, wherein, however effortlessly you roll the pin, it comes out round. Many people say that we have tried different attas, different flours, so that we can get the best soft chapati. As much as that atta is important, the mixture of the right texture, water and things, ingredients inside, it has to be right. Not too loose, not too tight, just right. And then you roll it up and then use the pin and it comes out round. Even at this stage it can be spoilt, it can be messed up. The pan has to be at the optimum heat as required for a roti. And then you throw it on the first side. Just as the moisture is getting evaporated, you flip it. The outer surface has to lose its certain moisture content and then flip it. Then the second layer also has to lose its moisture content. Then flip it back to the first side. Then press on the top. And suddenly, because both sides have hardened up, between these two surfaces, which was one single layer, air pockets form. And because it is on the hot tawa, air has a tendency to expand. And because it expands, it is called fulka. I think it is recorded. And then you flip it back again to get that golden brown color or little before golden brown color, and then take it out, apply a little bit of butter or ghee on it. Ha ha ha. soft. You put it in your mouth, melts. Today's class, only roti. Sabji you can imagine now. To get to that perfection, do you think automatically things will? No, Swamiji, these days we have these bread makers, throw everything in and it automatically makes bread. Perfect. Even to throw those things in, you should know what proportion, what sequence that they have to be thrown in. Little sequential disorder or the quantity disorder, it will bake. Instead of bread, it will become rusk. You know rusks? इंडिया में होता था, यहाँ पे भी होता है? देखा नहीं है यहाँ पे, but oh, then I have also seen. Instead of becoming bread, soft, fluffy, it becomes rusk. Or sometimes inedible, whatever texture it comes out. Half of it is baked, half of it is not baked, half of it, you don't want to touch it. Even to that automation process, there is some intelligence required to put it in that right automated condition. So just by material cannot create itself. The material has to have an intelligence behind to use that material. Some people further go and classify the third cause, and say that an instrumental cause. The material is there, the intelligence is there. To put that material in the right context and use, you need a certain infrastructure, certain material, certain instruments are required. So when all these three come in right proportion of utility, you can create something profound. In order to create this creation, which is constantly seeming to expand. There is a theory that space is expanding, the cosmos is expanding. Of course, human population is not expanding, it is exploding. What, how many are we now? 7 billion? 9 नहीं हुआ बाबा. 3 महीनों में इतना कैसे हो सकता है? I know cockroaches can breed that fast, not human beings. We need 9 months. Constantly expanding. So the fear in the scientist world is that there will be one day when everything will exhaust. Now, the example given in the scriptures is about with respect to creation. Can you count how many waves are created per moment across different oceans? Infinite. The number of created waves, do they reduce or change the ocean? Whatever wave format it is expressing, from a little ripple all the way to a big tsunami, it is still the ocean expressing in that format. It is still inseparable aspect of that ocean itself. Similarly, this entire creation is nothing but that Paramatma is the material, is the intelligence, and is also the instrument required to put that material in proper expression. So that Paramatma is expressing himself into these various aspects of multitude. It is as though that the existence is exploring itself in newer dimensions. Sarvam jagadidam tvattaha jayate. Every aspect of this creation is an expansion and an expression of your divine nature alone. I have often referred to, Vishnu Sahasranama. See, when it is Lord Vishnu's 1,000 names, what should have been the first name they start with? They should have started with Vishnu. But then the first word that they start with, as Bhishmacharya explains it to Yudhishthira, he starts with the first word, Vishwam. And then comes Vishnu. Why? That is a good process of upasana. Vishnu we may not realize. Vishwam is a constant experience, known reality. Through the known reality to get to the unknown aspect of that reality is easier than to start from the unknown to the known. So this entire creation, all sentient, insentient, expressed, unexpressed, manifest, unmanifest, all of them are nothing but Paramatma in expression. We may not realize that Paramatma in that format as of now. If you realize, well and good. But even that mere understanding that Paramatma is expressing in these different formats, we may not end up loving everything in this universe as Paramatma. But at least we can stop hating different expressions of Paramatma. Hating in the name of gender, hating in the name of color of skin, hating in the name of religion, hating in the name of customs and practices. Probably no other creature in this world requires this education other than us human beings. Before we can even think about evolving to a stage of universal brotherhood, it's a good topic to discuss over a coffee table. First things that can be done is achievables, doables. Stop hating anything in this universe. I also give this example. Since that day I don't give that as a prasad to small children. One day here, one of these places, I was distributing prasada and these kids came in. Since then I have developed this habit. I asked them, "Tujhe kya chahiye?" Because that day I had a green apple and I ended up giving that green apple. He looked at me such weird. I hate green apple. I was intrigued. What did this green apple do to you to hate it? You may not want it, you may not like it, but to hate it, hate is a very intense word. Okay, you don't want it, okay, I'll give you something else. We have our own set of prejudices to hate. Even if we understand and appreciate intellectually that every aspect of this creation is Paramatma, we may not like that aspect of Paramatma, but it does not give us the right to hate that expression of Paramatma. Paramatma expresses as snake. You may not end up liking it. Paramatma. As soon as you see a snake, you want to run away. Fine. But don't hate it. You may not like it. Because every aspect, every particle of this creation is Paramatma in expression. We may not evolve as of now to love everyone, love everything, love everybody. But at least start with, I don't need to hate anyone, hate anybody. Whatever is in its condition, let it be. I may not require to like it or hate it. Sarvam jagadidam tvatto jayate. Sarvam jagadidam tvattastisthati. The entire cosmos, entire creation is sustained, maintained, managed by you. What is the understanding and reflection in our day-to-day of this understanding? What is the jnana and vijnana of this understanding in our day-to-day life? We are not the general manager of this universe. So identify that which is our responsibility, Swadharma, and fulfill that Swadharma. Otherwise, we unnecessarily create such patterns of agitation about things that we cannot do anything about. Which we cannot impact, but unnecessarily keep worried about. Immediately, what is your immediate responsibility? What is your Swadharma? Fulfill that. For the rest of the creation to be maintained in balance, there is Paramatma and he is taking care of it. He is doing his job. Just do your bit. See, there is this huge machinery that comes. You know, the photocopy machines and printers and other things. There are lots of components in there. If that instrument loses one component, a tiny, weeny, little screw, the cleaning crew will come and clean up the whole thing. For them, it's an insignificant screw. But if that screw is not in its proper place, doing what it is supposed to do, that will impact the entire system. So understand, realize what is my role in this world. Fulfill that thoroughly. Learn to flower where you are potted. Rather than wishing for some other situation or condition, then I will think about flowering. Wherever you are, understand what is my responsibility, fulfill that. Not able to fulfill the immediate responsibility, we think about big things. That is called in Hindi ABMM. A बैल मुझे मार. Inviting troubles. Fulfill your role and responsibility, you will evolve to the next stage automatically. And this is true, whether it is in the family and your personal life or in your professional life. I am making that distinct remark so that it will sink in. Because many of us think that this entire philosophy or Siddhanta is okay, feel good factor. But Swamiji, in our practical life it is not applicable. In our cubicle life it is not applicable. God save you. It's equally applicable in all aspects of our life. Fulfill your Swadharma, you will get what you need to grow to the next level. Here I'll take one story from Bhagavatam to emphasize on that. Kaliya was in Yamuna Nadi, and he was poisoning the waters. The cattle were dying, some people also had died. So Krishna overheard this, and they went to that particular shore where there were prominent happenings. And then he asked his friends, let us play cricket. So cricket is not invented in England. It was in Bhagavatam. There is a word, kandukam. Kandukam is the ball. And they were using a stick. There were people throwing and they were playing, hitting. So Krishna purposefully chose to face the bank of the river and asked somebody to bowl, and he hit purposefully into the river. So other friends said, what Krishna, we just started and you hit the ball right into the river. No, go get it. You asked me to go, okay? That is what Krishna said. And he jumped in. And the ball, as he planned, he had the GPS tracking, went straight in front of that Kaliya. As soon as he saw the ball, it was flustered, and then it saw Krishna coming after it, further got angered. And we know that story that, he caught hold of its tail, stood up on its hood and danced to get it under control. So after all the reactionary patterns is done, Krishna has danced to his heart's content. He orders that Kaliya, go live in the oceans, not in any rivers. So he says something very spectacular. He says, Lord, who has created me? You have created me. Who has created me with poison? You have created me. Who has created the sequence that the poison, when it fills the glands, has to be, it has to come out? You have created that system. And I am now assured, whatever we are, wherever we are, whatever we are doing, if we do our Swadharma, that feat of yours, which is often meditated by the yogis, to in touch, just by fulfilling my Swadharma, has come on my head automatically. Hence, therefore, there he says, Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha. In fulfilling Swadharma, there is no better treasure than that. Just fulfilling and dedicating it. The rest of the creation is taken care of by the Lord. Do our bit and do it thoroughly, without slacking back. Why? Who is the sustainer of this world? Thou art the sustainer of this world. And that God who has created all this universe in such beautiful balance, do we need to remind him of his job? We need to be reminded of our job and fulfill our jobs. He is taking care of his job. Sarvam jagadidam tvattaha tishtati. The entire universe is being sustained by you, maintained by you, managed by you. Next he says, Sarvam jagadidam tvayi layameshyati. The entire universe merges back to be one with you at the end of creation. How can it be possible? Such calamity, such destruction. And we Hindus worship him as God who destroys all of us. It is not that illogical, come to think of it. Each one of us, as we wake up into this world, don't we create a web of our own world? My people, not my people, my things, not my things, my environment, not my environment, my territory, not my territory, my field, not my field. We create our own web of world. When we sleep back again, what happens to that world which we have created? Doesn't it go back into laya, into a nascent form along with us? The child may be there, but the sun that you see in that child also goes to sleep, laya. The house may be there, but it is my house. What happens to that my house? That also goes to laya. Everything that we create, everything that we call as my world, what happens to that world? Merged into that laya. When it happens at our individual condition, it is called laya. When it happens at the cosmic level, it is called pralaya. Everything is withdrawn back into its unmanifest stage. What happens? Again, when the creative urge starts, it manifests from where it had stopped. You are reading a book. You fall asleep. You wake up again and take that book. Where do you start from? From the beginning again? No, wherever we stopped, wherever we paused. Similarly, the entire creation. Sarvam jagadidam tvayi eva layameshyati. I mean, this is the pralaya concept. Sarvam jagadidam, all this entire creation with all its multitude, what is its final abode, resting place? In you alone. Anyatha sharanam nasti. There is no other refuge in this world. Tvam eva sharanam mama. I am giving you both the explanations of a bhakti as well as jnana in most of the words. Tvameva sharanam mama. Tasmat karunya bhavena. O Lord, I have nowhere else to go. Because nothing else is worth the refuge. I have taken refuge in relationships, I have taken refuge in things, I have taken refuge in money, I have taken refuge in positions, I have taken refuge in fame, name. Nothing gives that permanency. Hence, therefore, I finally understand that you alone are the final abode and I should merge in you alone. And it's not just for me. For the entire universe, this is the very abode that we are searching for. Our true nature, our final abode. Sarvam jagadidam tvai layameshyati. A wave rising from the ocean starts as a ripple, grows, and then picks up momentum, becomes a huge, beautiful wave, gurgling and rolling and spinning, and it reaches a certain height. Then it looks around to the other waves. Dekha. And before it can turn its head back, what happens? Done. Where does it go back? It goes back to the source alone. Now pay attention. We give lot of undue attention to our thoughts, themes of those thoughts, emotions, content of those emotions, and to whom it is directed. That is where our focus and attention is. But instead, if we can gather the capacity to observe where from this thought arises, where from this idea arises, where from this emotion arises, and what is it that is sustaining that thought or emotion, and where does that thought again merge back into that consciousness alone. When do we seem to get lost? When we are identifying with the theme and modifications of those emotions and thoughts and ideas, we get lost in that thought. But as long as I am perceiving the rise of that thought and merging of that thought, rising from me and merging back in me, do the waves have any kind of impact on me? As long as I am on the surface, I will be tossed by these waves. Go deeper. Deep enough wherein you can turn around and watch the waves arise and fall. Do you think those waves can toss you any further? So it is not a problem having thoughts, emotions, feelings, ideas. That is not our problem. which we unduly blame. Swamiji, my mind is all, so many thoughts, so many emotions, so many feelings, Good. Congratulations. That is a sign of somebody being alive. No, Swami, you don't understand. आप तो पहुंचे हुए हो, मैं अभी भी यहीं पे हूं, पहुंचा कहीं नहीं हूं. Because even those emotions that we today brand as negative emotions are not actually negative. And from this standpoint, when you look at it, any emotion for that matter, when we are unduly attached to, is negative. Is anger good or bad? It depends. Is knife good or bad? Come on, grow out of the thought of it depends. It is neither good nor bad. It is a vastu. Who uses it and how they end up using it makes it good or bad. If it is a mother who is cutting vegetables to make a good dinner, good. If it is an irritated wife trying to cut vegetables and you go mess up with, bad. The same person, the roles reversed, roles changed. The instrument becomes good or bad. But the instrument as such is neither good nor bad. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsara, are they bad? As long as we are under the influence, grip of these emotions, it is bad. Consciously withdraw from that attachment and observe them. Know when to use them, when not to use them. If required, sometimes you may have to use anger. But remember not to become angry. But what do we become? A typical angered moment. You are huffing and puffing. It just comes out. Is it done? No. Anybody that you walk with or interact with for next few hours, today these people, I tell you, what did that other person do? No. Constantly vomiting it out. Why? We have become rather than using that emotion. It is in that consciousness everything raises, everything is sustained, everything merges back. I am not that which is arising, I am that from which it is arising. Sarvam jagadidam tvatta jayate, jagadidam tvattas tisthati, sarvam jagadidam tvailaya meshyati. Why? Where is that Jagat? Jagat exists as long as thought exists. Where is the Jagat when there is no thought? Is there a Jagat when there is no thought? So in one way he is talking about the entire creation, the other he is also indicating that this entirety exists as long as there is thought. The moment you withdraw from that thought and observe it, all that there is consciousness expressing and not plurality. And once you learn this art, then you are not afraid of this creation. Sarvam jagadidam tvai pratyeti. Now you have mastered it. Hence, therefore, fearlessly you express. Joyously you express. Tvai pratyeti. It emerges back from you. Because there is nothing else to sustain. It is that conscious platform alone which gives rise to a thought, and the thought has nowhere else to go other than to merge back into that consciousness alone. So do I see it as that consciousness, or I the consciousness in which it merges? That is the spiritual evolution. As long as we are identified with these thoughts, we say that it merges into that consciousness. The moment I shift my focus to consciousness, I see that all these things arise in me and merge in me. I can control them, they cannot control me. Sarvam jagadidam tvai pratyeti. And it is this very consciousness which expresses forth as prapancha. How is it that? That we will see tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.